the battle of the champions. These are two of the best fighting pistols currently available on the market, in my opinion. First one up, STI DVC-P, CZ Shadow 2, optics ready, Cajunized. So when I'm saying fighting pistol, what I mean is these are two of the best pistols for putting lead downrange as quickly and accurately as you can. So if you absolutely have to put down an attacker, these are some of the pistols that are going to do it the best. So you're going to be the most accurate, you're going to be the fastest, putting holes downrange. We all know that pistol rounds are not extremely effective, so you really need lead on target and quickly in order to put down a threat. So these are two of the most non-compromised pistols out there that I think can do it. So if you're not worried about weight, you're not worried about size, we're not talking mouse guns here, we're not talking worried about concealability, oh it's too heavy, oh blah blah blah. If you want to carry one of the most effective pistols out there, these are a couple of the top contenders. So right off the bat, I did a bunch of slow-mo testing, and we'll throw some video in there as far as recoil was concerned. So it was flat shooting was one of my main concerns shooting here. So I had an 8-inch circle set out there, and I did a bunch of split times and trying to see just what we could get out of those two pistols, and they are both very, very close. I don't think there's a discernible difference. It seemed every time I'd switch guns and try and do the split times again, I would just keep getting faster and faster, and they are very, very close together. So we were getting splits in the 0.16, 0.17 range, and they were accurate. We were in that 8-inch circle at 7 yards, so they are very fast and very accurate. I think they throw lead extremely effective, and I could not find a huge difference in between the two of them. As far as trigger goes, the trigger on the STI is a little bit better, and there's no other way to put it. So there is a tiny bit, about 1 millimeter take up, it's almost completely weightless, and you break that glass rod, reset, about 1.5 millimeters. The Shadow 2, there's another millimeter of weightless take up, glass rod again, about 3 pounds, whereas the STI is about 2.5. And then for the reset, it's longer. You're about 2 millimeters worth of travel on the reset for the CZ. So there's a shorter amount of travel for the STI, and I figured that would be happening. When it comes to great triggers, 1911 and 2011 triggers are pretty much unbeatable. Even Cajunized, even probably the best DA/SA trigger out available, it can't quite keep up. I mean, there's just going to be a little bit more travel difference between cranking that shot off and reset, but it didn't come through on the split times. Getting as fast as I could of split times and shots, there wasn't a discernible difference. I mean, when you've trained long enough to come off of that trigger and come back down and get right back to that wall, there wasn't a big enough difference there. I mean, 0.16, 0.17, right back and forth on split times, and they were both very accurate, both right on in that 8-inch circle. All right, we're gonna try for splits again. Faster that time. STI 0.17. See if they're all of 0.17s. Back to the Shadow 2. And 0.16s on the Shadow 2. It's getting a little faster as I warm up here, but not seeing a huge difference in the speed I'm able to shoot them. I took some slow motion video of the recoil impulse. Man, they just they are so close together that it's hard to decipher what gain I'm getting. So the Shadow 2 is a little bit heavier, but the DVC-P is running a comp, and for the life of me, I can't feel a huge difference between them. They're so close, just right up there at the top. There wasn't enough of a difference. If you're a big trigger snob and that tiny extra bit of reset, and I mean half a pound, maybe of more trigger weight, I mean 2.5 pounds versus 3 pounds on the Shadow 2. If you're a big trigger snob, that might be a bonus for you. I couldn't find enough of a difference actually using the pistols, so there wasn't a discernible difference there. Using them, shooting them, I couldn't find a big difference there. But it is a little bit better trigger, and with 2011s and 1911s, I don't think you're going to be able to beat them. Travel distance is just going to be smaller on those guys. The grip on the this tree bark, I think they call it, on the STI, it is not aggressive enough. As I started moving around, running drills, shooting a lot, it felt like in a string of fire, we were just starting to lose control of the STI. It would just get a little bit slicker. I mean, it wasn't a huge difference. Like, we're talking two very, very peak pistols available, but it felt like there was a little bit of movement starting to happen there, and I would almost feel like I was starting to lose control on longer strings of fire. As you got sweatier, as stuff started moving around, it's just not aggressive enough as I like it. So on the Shadow 2, I have the lock bogey palm swells, so they are very sharp. The cuts into the front and back serrations on the Shadow 2 are very aggressive as well. So that thing, once you're gripped down, it doesn't matter how sweaty you get, blood, whatever the case, your drills may be, that's not coming out of your hand. It is not flipping out, it is not, I mean, it is just stuck. It is right in your hands. Some people don't like that aggressive texture though. It doesn't bother me. I don't want anything less. I don't want to compromise on ability so that it's just a little less rub on my belly or something like that. More aggressive is better for me, in my opinion. It's just better all the way around. On the same thing of grip, the beaver tail and the safety arrangement on the STI. Now, if you watch Robert Vogel's video on grip, and he's probably one of the fastest pistol shooters out there. What he says, and I've followed his teachings on that, is when you're squeezing onto the grip, you don't want to just squeeze like a clamp. You want to force your thumb as high as you can. You want to be as high on that pistol as humanly possible so that you're not getting as much muzzle flip. So you can keep that pistol as flat as possible, the higher you can get up on that grip. And when trying to do that, I would bring my shooting thumb down here on this manual safety and really clamp down and try and get as high as I possibly could. The bevel on the back of this safety and this beaver tail really starts to cut into the inside of my knuckle there. I've got pretty big hands, so it might, I think it'd probably be an issue even if I had smaller hands. So longer strings of fire, it would start to hurt the top of my thumb because I'm trying to force my hand as high into that beaver tail as I can, and it just kind of right there sticks into that knuckle. Whereas on the Shadow 2, they did an excellent job when they redesigned this from the Shadow 1, that there is a complete huge cutout right here where I can force the web of my hand as high as I like, and the inbound slide really helps with that as well. So I can get as high as humanly possible on that grip and just keep that muzzle flip to an absolute minimum. So that is much more comfortable. I mean, they did an excellent job with, you can just see that huge amount of the material that they took out of there to get your hand as high as possible. And that does help. It really does. I took some slow motion video of the recoil impulse on both of them, and there wasn't a huge amount of difference. I mean, I could get up high on the STI as well. It just did start to, I'm sure I'm going to bruise, have a big bruise on this inside knuckle. It's just not nearly as comfortable to do so. But recoil comparison between the two of them, they are very, very close. I couldn't find enough of a difference shooting and watching that slow-mo, they are very close. And I mean, with pistols that are this high a caliber, they're going to be that close. One thing that really upset me on the STI, and I think this is completely unacceptable, these magazines. So these are STI brand magazines. You can read that there. And I can kind of feel some resistance as I was reloading and shoving them in there, but that's not a big deal. When you're reloading at speed, you're there anyway. The problem is, they don't drop free. And this annoys the shit out of me. You know how much they charge for this fucking pistol and the magazines will not drop free? I mean, what a bunch of shit, right? That is just completely unacceptable to me. Won't drop out. I mean, here this one's full of rounds. Still won't drop out. It comes a little farther, gets a little closer. I can't shake it out of there. Nobody wants to strip magazines. That is not helpful to speed at all. And with what this thing costs, there is no reason that magazines shouldn't fly out of that guy and practically reload themselves. The magwell on this is pretty nice. CZ obviously designed theirs to have a magwell inside of the actual frame. I've never found a need to add any additional magwell to it, and of course I'm trying to use this as a carry gun too, so I don't want that extra brick to it, but it was nice to have the magwell, but it's not nearly making up for mags not dropping free on that. I mean, your magazines should launch out of that guy with some authority, and they absolutely do not. And I find that completely unacceptable. There's no reason a gun that costs that much shouldn't have those mags flying out of there. So that was a big bother. Other than that though, I mean, these are two excellent pistols, but there are just enough detractions off of the STI that I have to declare the CZ Shadow 2 Cajunized as a definite winner here. It's more comfortable, it stays in my grip better, it shoots just as flat. I mean, they both are very comparable there, but there's enough little problems with the STI that completely turn me off of buying it. I mean, yeah, I could get the grip stipple to make it a little better. I'm sure if I wanted to take the time to actually Dremel in here, I could get the mags to drop free, but with how much this fucking thing costs, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't be trying to modify it to get it to where I want to be. I shouldn't be trying to change out the safety lever because it's biting into my thumb a little bit. It should be perfect right out of the box, because you can buy 3 Cajunized Shadow 2s for what one of those costs. So, my opinion, definitely CZ Shadow 2, still kinging them out.